not so positive things, I guess.
Yeah, I do feel like they do deserve some praise for implementing 2 ray tracing features, and I think scene dependent, it can be pretty nice change, especially the ray tracing GI component. But I think the thing I found out really easily on PC, and you'll see in my video when it comes out, and it explains a lot of the game's performance, that it doesn't scale really at all any higher than the console versions. And to just give a sense of what I mean, if I put a really high-end GPU to the console settings that I've derived so far, the game essentially on the RTX 3080 class GPU is not going above like 30 to 40% GPU utilization at 4K output. So those are the highest settings for the ray tracing essentially. That's kind of my problem with the ray tracing implementation on PC is that sure, it runs well, but you can see the quality concerns really easily in a lot of cases, especially at high PC output resolutions and things like that. And there's no way to go above these limitations that are kind of set by this lowest common denominator of the consoles. And that is just a bit of a shame because, on PC you want this game to scale over time really well. And the only way to really do that now with the current way the game's programmed is to increase the output resolution insanely, and that doesn't seem very...
So you got to get to 8K.
Yeah, I did try running the game at 8K. Finally, the reflections look okay, but that's about it. And
I guess to be fair though, Alex, as you play the game, I will say I think the reflections are the weakest part of RT, as suggested, but there's not that many reflections, I guess, and most of them are on objects that are kind of just the way the surfaces work. It's not that noticeable. It's really just like some of the water looks like
my disagreement with you there is that it's not noticeable since there's so few objects, but I just really dislike that you can see the pixel pattern in the reflection.
Oh, the pixel structure.
You can see that, and a lot of other RT reflections don't have this issue because they're like blending more. They're using a little bit more. I don't know. They're not even the pixel structure so visible,
right.
And that's that.
I will say
ugly.
this feels like a mode designed for console or TV play, because when I played on the TV, I could tell there was some pixel structure wasn't really evident from the viewing distance, but as soon as I started looking at it on my PC monitor from normal view distance there, it's pretty bad.
And it leaves like aliasing on edges that looks really not good. And
oh yeah, that teapot at the beginning especially, there's all those like harsh steps around the edge of the polygons.
It feels like this game is, it doesn't scale high enough to, especially what NVIDIA hardware can do. Like it would be nice if there was a full resolution ray tracing option to help mitigate these issues and also give higher end PCs a little bit more room to scale because it doesn't scale very well. And getting over to other aspects of the PC players, which I don't want to create my video fully, but this is a so we do get things like what looks to be my voice.
It looks to be your voice.
It looks to be my voice. A variable rate shading tier 2 is in there, as well as fidelity effect sharpening, but there are some issues with these implementations. I'm not sure if the anti-aliasing is working correctly in the game, which has some side effects for some of the ray tracing noise, as well as some other things, and I'm not sure if VRS tier 2 is implemented in a way that I'm very proud of. I don't know, you'll have to see my video for it when it does come out, but I just feel like there's a lot of really great stuff in this PC version of Resident Evil Village that I've played so far, but there's so many other decisions which seem kind of arbitrary, or also some of the menu is bafflingly good and bafflingly terrible at the same time. Let me just give the example. So you can usually navigate menus on PC just with a keyboard. Here you can kind of do that, but every single time you want to leave a sub-menu, you have to click the right mouse button. I've never ever seen that anywhere before. There's no keyboard key to get out of the menu. So it's like designed around a gamepad, but not. It's so weird.
Thank you, Spyro.
What about the AA situation? Did you ever figure that out?
I don't know what to make of it yet. There is an anti-aliasing applying to the image, but at the same time, there is no obvious temporal component that seems to be working correctly, which has some side effects, I think. One, there's no ghosting at all, which is, I guess, a positive side effect. But at the same time, you're getting a lot more aliasing in the image than we usually would. And I'm pretty sure things like the noise in reflections, not less the noise in reflections because they're already really noisy, but like the shadow dithering is a little bit more intense on PC, I would say, as a result, as well as I'm pretty sure the film grain composition is completely broken as a result of this. It doesn't work at all. I think the film grain is designed with some sort of temporal component in mind.
It seems like a bug though, too, because like almost because there is TA on the console.
For sure. Yeah.
But so it doesn't make sense that it's just absent. Hopefully that'll get fixed.
I hope so.
I'm just loving this menu navigation. I'm reminded of the bit in Star Trek 4 where Scotty talks to the computer from the mouse.
Yeah.
It's just like the UI is just totally counterintuitive to what you expect.
It's exactly
And
that.
all I've got to say really from what I saw on the ray tracing is that I only played the demo, and in the demo, you go into that truck and you've got the rear view mirror and it looks awful. It doesn't, the whole point of ray tracing is that you're getting a kind of certain level of fidelity in reflections deployed on reflections. And I just looked at that and thought, that doesn't look like ray tracing. And when you look at the computational hit,
It's very low.
you just think, it's bizarre. So I hope they do some more work on that. And I'm also kind of, again, it kind of highlights to me when there's an AMD sponsored title, what we're missing when we don't have DLSS. And this is a whole debate about the fact that you can never have DLSS in an AMD sponsored title. If you've got an NVIDIA GPU, you kind of feel that you're really missing out. Now, this isn't Capcom's fault, I don't think. I'm not sure you can actually blame AMD for it. I mean, it's just this bizarre situation we have where one of the most desirable features in a PC game can't be available on all titles because of the proprietary nature of the technology.
Yeah.
It's a really weird situation we're in at the moment. It's kind of almost a transitionary
Well
phase.
done, Spyro. Okay, Spyro, jump through that hole.
Something along the lines of what happened with G-Sync, where this was a proprietary technology. It eventually became
Before you get to the castle
standard
dungeon.
that everybody could tap into.
Right.
But for the time, but this is even more impactful because DLSS is a game changer across the board. Arguably more so than ray tracing, certainly in terms of performance. So it's kind of, I haven't seen your video for this yet, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. And so to see stack up because we've not actually seen the engine. Okay, let's move on and check out the second news piece. And yes, the second news piece, I really wanted to talk about this last week, because we had early access to the patrons. They would have been privy to the information we could share on the Saturday. But basically, Microsoft FPS Boost, they've gone nuclear. 74 titles. I played a bunch of them last weekend. Still need to figure out. I mean, this is the thing. There's so much content that's been upgraded. I'm kind of struggling to figure out how we're going to cover it. But John, what do you reckon about this?
Well, I think as far as coverage goes, it's not really necessary to cover them.
No, it's not.
Or anywhere near.
But there's
because
so
most
much
of
good
these
stuff in there.
Like the story is usually just like, oh, it runs at 60 frames per second now, which is awesome. But like, there's usually not much more to it. It's more like the unique situations. Like I think one of the ones that was impressive is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, where that was actually so here. many of these titles, when they add FPS boost, if you're playing on Series X, they fall back to the Xbox One base mode, which, so that means reduced resolution, detail, and all that. In trade for Shadow of the Tomb Raider is one of the examples where you retain all the 1X enhancements, higher resolution, and it looks really nice that way, I have to say. I checked it out after Richard was like, you should look at that. I was like, yeah, this is I mean, it basically feels like a proper, I guess, now current gen version of the game, if you will.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm reminded of stuff like the Ratchet and Clank and God of War upgrades on PlayStation 5.
It's exactly like that. Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah, they're essentially just a doubling of frame rate because the the rendering engines there are so forward looking, because the content is so well authored. Just the upgrade to frame rate really does allow everything to shine to a hitherto unseen degree. Well, I'll say unseen. Obviously, if you had the PC version, you could have aimed for that. But I'll tell you what, Alex. A while back, I tried to use your console equivalent settings on PC, and it seemed to be much heavier than it was, in terms of relative power on the consoles. It seemed to require a much more powerful GPU to get the job done there. So that was even more of a surprise when I saw that Shadow of the Tomb Raider was actually running really, really nicely on Series X. And yeah, you're right. There's this kind of when Microsoft announced FPS boost, it was like 2x frame rate. This is going to be really good. But
excellent.
With a lot of the FPS boost titles in Series X, it is dropping down to the 1S code path. And what this is actually producing is actually, it's like, the legacy of the Xbox One and its performance limitations.
It's coming back to haunt us.
It's actually having implications for Series X in the current generation. And I think Far Cry 5 is an interesting one, right? Because it kind of came out at a very similar time point to Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, we've got Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's not quite 4K 60, but it's as good as. And then with Far Cry, you are getting a really good locked 60 frames per second, but you're getting like 1440 by 1080.
Yeah.
And it's not a no-brainer, is it?
Yeah, that's kind of, so it really is kind of hit or miss, I'd say, depending. It's the same with Titanfall 2 was interesting, where that was 120 hertz, right? I tried that out myself, and it's like, it feels really great, but it really loses a lot of image quality. It's just kind of, so it feels like it would be interesting if there was some way to find a middle ground there. I don't know if it's feasible or not, but like, I don't know. But I guess, on the flip side, there's smaller titles that really benefit a lot that you might not expect. Like Hollow Knight, for instance, got a 120 hertz update, and that's a game that just looks phenomenal on any platform due to the nature of its art, and it feels so good at 120 hertz. 120 hertz for platform games is actually one of the best uses of 120 hertz, in my opinion. They just feel so good and responsive. I really like that. I was also, some of these titles also, like Deus Ex Mankind Divided's on here, and that initially confused me because I was like, wait, that received enhancements. And it's like, wait, no. It was 2016, so it got a PS4 Pro patch, but it never got a 1X patch, unfortunately. So it is kind of one of those situations where you have to go through this with kind of a fine-tooth comb. Although I will say, one of the ones that is kind of interesting is Assassin's Creed Unity was on here. And that one, we had shown that early on as supporting 60 hertz if you play it off the disc because the frame rate wasn't capped. But the original launch version is very buggy. So now they've essentially unlocked it so you can get 60 hertz on both Series X and Series S. And it is the latest version, so a lot of the bugs are essentially fixed. So that's actually one of the last Assassin's Creed games that I enjoyed. It has its problems, but I kind of like it.
So, there's actually a really curious case in there with, what was it, Gears of War 4? That one's a little confusing.
Yep.
I don't actually know what that is because...
I need to check that out.
I didn't check it out, unfortunately, but there only was a 60 FPS mode in 1X.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess this is taking the 1x 30 FPS home and pushing it up.
No, I don't think so, because it has the little check mark saying it's off by default in Series X, which means it probably switches to base 1 mode.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, and that's 1080p.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, wouldn't this just be the same?
Right. I think what's happening here is that basically this is aimed primarily at Series X.
Okay.
Which
For Series S users.
It should be like 1080p 60, and without that FPS boost, they'd be limited to dynamic 1080p 30, with 1080p 30. So yeah, there's another interesting example there. I haven't actually looked at this yet because I need to borrow your account to do it, John. But the Evil Within 2 gets that actually gets FPS boost too, and that has an unlocked frame rate mode on Series X, on 1X already, which translates to Series X. So I think what that is actually doing is, first of all, opening up the mode, which I don't think was available, the unlocked mode, on Series S. But what I'm kind of curious to see what it's actually going to do on Series X versus just the standard unlock.
Yeah, because it has the check mark next to it, so it seems like it would switch back to base 1 mode on Series X. So it feels like, to me, like you actually would not want to enable FPS boost.
It does sound like a downgrade, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So
but
use caution.
Yeah, but there's some great stuff in there. I really enjoyed Dying Light at 60 frames per second, even though it is a really good game. It's running on the longest.
Goose Game is 120.
Yeah. There's also
Metro is 120.
There's also Shadow Warrior 2, which that's a game
I
that
played
should just never be played at 30. So good.
Well, yes, but again, it didn't receive a 1x enhancement. And I would contend it's a game that you don't want to play at 900p either. And
what about Mad Max is an interesting.
It's 120,
yeah,
right?
120 on Series X.
120 on Series X, so that's going up from 30 frames per second. So that is actually, I haven't actually tried that one. I do want to try it, and I think it's one of the it's one of the overlooked
no one's
gems
been through
of the
that
last
portal in
generation.
years. I thought I'd never find a sucker.
Cool,
I mean, you're a shrewd
good,
customer,
yeah.
Spyro.
And I think this is kind of what I like about FPS Boost, regardless of all of the hashtag caveats, is that a lot of these games from the last generation, they still hold up. They're still really good. I mean, I played Dying Light for part of the afternoon last weekend simply because, well, for 2 reasons. First of all, the game is really good. And secondly, I was kind of googling its release date because it was so far ahead of its time. It was doing some fantastic things for the time it was released. And it's just stuff like anti-aliasing, possibly the lighting that kind of holds it back a bit. But they could remaster that game tomorrow, and I'd be all in.
You could also just have the one of those cases where it was lower than low.
PC.
It really rained out.
That was
But although I will say, fun fact about Dying Light, the game is not.
Yeah.
So it feels illicit. Dying Light game.
It's like me using to get any of the in-tech games recently, since they're also to get the non-German versions. I always have to use we call it VPN clients and stuff like that for months at a time.
I feel like a lot of this stuff has been rolled back.
Thanks for helping me read.
No more than
I think the last thing I want to say about FPS Boost, in the Slack channel yesterday, I shared that tweet from Phil Spencer where he was running AC Unity with co-op, and that said 2 things to me. First of all, I didn't realize that co-op still worked. I thought it had kind of just died a death. Secondly, I never played it co-op. I kind of really want to give it a go with you guys because it's kind of like the route not taken with Assassin's Creed because
Hi, Spyro.
yeah, and
Would you like
and then
me?
obviously the
Great.
next
Legend
point from
has
that
it.
is, well, if it
Thanks
works
for the
on
gems,
Xbox, does it work on
Spyro.
PC?
With
Could
all
we,
this,
could we do this at 4K 60?
Dude, the PC version looks amazing.
I've
The LOD stuff,
I've never
but
played it in co-op, but it always reminds me like Assassin's Creed has never gone that route. Why haven't a lot of these sandbox sandbox arena kind of games. Consider Assassin's Creed as part of that. Not on the co-op route where it's just so fun to install the hardware together as a
I would love to try that because I think the technical ambition to actually maintain that world with that level of detail, with that many of NPCs, and to do it consistently with multiple players.
Wow!
I can see why they would want to do it, and I can also see why they would want to jettison the feature after one attempt. But I really want to check that out, so maybe we can find some time to do that. But yeah, FPS Boost, eager to see more. It's been a sort of distressing lack of Activision games, which concerns me. But everybody else seems to be well on board with it.
I've never heard that
distressing lack of
description.
Activision.
Distressing
Spyro.
lack of
You have to
Activision.
jump down the
Well,
hole
you know,
in the
they've got
floor
a lot
to
of
keep
games
the
that I'd really like to play at 60 and 120 frames per second. You know?
Yeah, some of them
yeah.
don't even work though. Infinite Warfare has a 90 FPS lock on PC that cannot be gone around because it breaks the game's physics. So some of the Call of Duty
So the next news piece, I don't really know what kind of expert insight we can provide on this. Just the circus surrounding it, the show, the remarkable disclosures. It's the epic face-off where it's kind of unseemly in a way, but the dirty laundry of the industry is being paraded out for everybody to look at. And, special call out to Tom the juiciest details, all of the legal disclosures. And there was the whole legal disclosure about Sony's crossplay strategy, which was supposed to be a sealed document, which was just publicly released.
I'm really just enjoying listening to like Tim Sweeney and stuff, but like a lot of it's like really weird, obvious stuff. It's like, Mr. Sweeney, do you know what a game console is?
What is Euro?
What is this? This is the PlayStation 5. Stuff like that. What is Eurogame? You know what that is? It's like, you just sit there and say,
just to talk about the cross-platform play fee on the Sony side of things, I think it's unexpected because we have got massive corporations here, especially ones with such monopolizing positions. It's not so surprising that we do that. But it is disappointing because I could imagine for certain games, like smaller indie titles, where you have I would say you're not always sure what your split will be across PC, Xbox Series, or a PlayStation or Switch even. And then if you have to already have these small
I finally come up with a
have to pay a fee to make sure that the community stays open and large, then it is a disincentivizing against that, and it could actually negatively hurt niche games more so than your Call of Duties or your Fortnites, my goodness. So that's the one thing that actually I find really sour about it.
Yeah, I mean, we are kind of seeing, how can I describe it? Basically a lot of corporate positioning that we kind of were dimly aware of, but we're actually seeing it laid bare in black and white. And it's kind of a bit unseemly, and I hope that people do take a look at these documents, because there is a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of people that are emotionally attached to mega corporate brands here for some bizarre reason. And yet,
Twitter users?
Yeah.
Well,
you're talking about the court doc. Oh, see, right. Sorry, I got confused there for a second.
No. It is. There's basically it is the fact that this is fundamentally a business, and people are basically protecting their interests. But we are seeing kind of like global strategies being explained in a bit more depth. I mean, I don't think it's any sort of secret at this point that Xbox would be perfectly happy to have their games running on PlayStation if they could have Xbox Live and Game Pass on there. They're kind of moving into a platform agnostic phase, whereas
Spyro,
it's the
we
exact
want-
opposite. It's a huge success. Stance. So yes, it is just kind of interesting to see what these games released. I agree with this the colossal waste of Tim Sweeney's time. This question is kind of
There is PC stuff that's interesting. Really, just customized everywhere. There's the documents concerning what the buyout costs is. So buyout costs for most of your smaller titles, as well as some good EPS packages. So games, essentially, and the numbers there for what the indie developers primarily were given to make the game free on BGS was the amount of copies given.
I don't think we can ever thank you enough, Spyro. I suppose you have to go now?
Yeah, I'd better. They'll be missing me in the Dragon Worlds, and I've still got a vacation to take. I need it more than ever now.
Before you go, I think that Moneybags has something he wants to give you.
I most certainly do not.
Hunter? Spyro, Moneybags is very sorry that he made you pay so much on your way through Avalar. We want you to keep the gems as a reward for helping us.
Wow, thanks. Sparks, can you grab them? Let me just type in the new coordinates and... There! Spyro, you can now go to Dragon Shores. Hey, why don't you guys come with me? I bet you could use a holiday.
I'm afraid we can't, Spyro.